Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of the Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 2nd of September. So coming to the first article, a flawed process that pleased none, as well as citizenship figure. Now if you have been following my blogs for long, or my discussions for long, I'm sure you will know that we have for long been discussing about NRC, and there I have repeatedly said that 31st of August was what was supposed to be the final date for submitting the NRC, and this deadline is what has been reached, and as a result of which I had told you articles will be seen after that, what has happened, what are the developments. So today in the editorial we find two articles discussing this, and that is why this discussion is what has been clubbed of both these editorials. So coming to the analysis, just as I have mentioned, the context of this article is with regards to the NRC in Assam. So coming to the analysis, the first analysis is whether or not this process has resulted in a closure. Now if a report has been submitted, it would very much be expected that closure is what has been brought about, but that is what is not the case here. First and foremost, here you should know that what are the findings of the report. As per the report, approximately 1.9 million people have pounded their names not in the NRC. That means approximately 20 lakh people are such, or 19 to 20 lakh people are such, who are not citizens of India as of now, and they don't know what to do. So clearly there is no closure for them because they don't know what is to be done by them. So that is the first issue. The second important analysis is with regards to the fact that even those whose names are very much in the register as citizens of India, they are also not finding a closure. Why are they not finding a closure? Is because the locals in Assam, the already citizens of India in Assam, are specifically saying that a number of people are what have been left out of this particular list, and that is why they are demanding from the government that a revision of this list be done, and that is why the government has now promised that it will also further revise the list again. So closure has not been brought about for these people also. Now if no closure is brought about for these people, then it clearly means that they are still lacking a personal permanent security. Fear is what is being expected out of these people, and this is a process that is already gone for 6 long years, and that is one of the major concerns, that for such a long time these people in Assam are suffering. So that is one important analysis which has been drawn here, that no closure is there. It is still a long festering dispute. So that is what is important. Another thing that I found relevant was something of the core agenda. Now this is what is the election agenda of the current government. It has highlighted that it is going to carry out some difficult decision. One was in the context of the NRC, the second was in the context of Article 370, and third was on building the Ram temple. So because this issue is on the core agenda of the government, some action by them is what is going to be expected here. So that is one important analysis. Another very important analysis is with regards to the communal undertones of this issue. Now basically, when this issue first arose in Assam, that was a sub-nationalism, one can say, in Assam. Nationalism is a feeling of oneness. In Assam, what happened is that people there felt that they had a oneness because of their culture, and all those people who had migrated from other areas, be it from Bengal particularly, the Bengali speaking people, they were the ones who were not assimilated, and therefore sub-nationalism grew in the hearts of the people in Assam, and this movement of purging out the immigrants in Assam is what started. So basically when this started, this was not something that was religious. It was only something that was about the people and the locals in Assam. But what has happened now is that this movement has become communal. Why has this become communal? Is because now there are two streams of people who are there. One are the Muslims that are living in, who are the Bengali speaking Muslims in that particular region, and the second are the Bengali speaking Hindus. So now basically the government has a tendency where Hindus will be allowed to live. The government is not very much against the Bengali speaking Hindus, but government is hell-bent against the Muslims, and that is what is a problem that is arising in Assam. So that is the communal undertone of this particular issue, which is important. Also, time and again I have discussed this aspect of the process that has been followed in the NRC. We have discussed that this has been a highly flawed process. There has been several issues in the context of this particular process where this has been exploitative, it has been closed, opaque. Despite the fact that this has been supervised by the Supreme Court, the rights of the citizens were not respected in this particular context. All the articles that I have discussed on NRC have spoken about this, so I will not be delving much on this. The basic analysis is that the burden of proof is what was there on the residents and not on the government. It is the government who should prove who's the citizen and who's not. Why should a citizen prove that whether or not he is a citizen? So that is one issue. Also, what has happened after the NRC being submitted, that a retired army personnel, he has found his name not in the NRC. That means he is also not a citizen of India, despite the fact that he has even served in the army. A serving lawmaker, as for that matter, is not a citizen of India. A former legislator has not found his name. So these kind of flaws are definitely something that have taken place. So that is important. Also, the editorial here is analyzing about the future prospects, and this is what is the most important aspect, because this is what we have not discussed. In the past, what will happen now? Now, if there are 19 lakh people, they have to resort first and foremost, they will have to go to foreign tribunals. The condition on plight of these foreign tribunals is something that I have already discussed. Now, basically, there are 1,000 foreign tribunals, and if we do our math, we will find that even if one foreign tribunal is discussing one case per day, it will take approximately 6 years to resolve these 19 lakh cases. Where will these people go for 66 long years is a question that needs to be raised. And where will they be kept? Will they be kept in detention centers? If that is the case, then keeping approximately 20 lakh people in detention will almost result in Assam becoming a police state or a prison state. So this is one keyword, that it will become a prison state. That is important. Also, something that I found relevant was this idea of citizenship without rights. Now, if these people are not going to be the citizens of India and they will be allowed to stay within India, then what will be done? Will we take away the rights? For instance, the demand has been that first and foremost these people should be detected. The demands are of 3 Ds, that is detection, deletion of these people. Primarily, deletion means that deleting the names from the electoral rolls. And the third demand is that of deportation. Now, they cannot be deported to Bangladesh. We have just discussed recently that the Indian External Affairs Minister from India has announced that this is what is an internal matter for India, and Bangladesh is well kept out of this. The relations with Bangladesh are what are not bittered by the government. The government has tried to save its relation with Bangladesh. So what will we do with these people is the question that is being asked, that if their rights are taken, for instance, if their voting rights are suspended, then this is what is going to result in marking people, making them powerless, and this is what is going to result in them facing intense state scrutiny, and it will make them highly vulnerable. So this is one ethical issue that is arising. This is also a new way of quoting this issue, that is citizenship without rights, and that is why I picked it up as a key phrase also. So note this issue. Indeed, NRC, very, very important issue. This is only a recent development, as we have discussed. There is basically no closure to this issue anytime soon. We will definitely see articles on this in future also. So what is important that you should know, that as per the report, approximately 19 lakh people have not found the names on the NRC. So whenever you have an opportunity to discuss, you should mention these figures. But you should also know that the locals there are saying that 19 lakh is a very, very less number. According to them, approximately 50 lakh to 1 crore people should come on this, should be out of this particular list. So that is what is in the entire issue, and that is what has been analyzed in the editorial. Indeed, the topic is relevant for us. I have time and again told you, for general studies paper 2, this can be a question, and that is where you have to use this particular article also. Coming to the next article. A new ethics for a sustainable planet. Now, for those of you who are following my videos for long, you will know that it is very, very rare that I tell you to keep an article with you. This is one such article. This is a very, very important article. I cannot stress more on the importance of this particular article. Please, if you have your newspapers with you, keep a cutting of this particular article. If you don't have your newspapers, that is the reason why I provide articles also in my discussion. Please mark this date, mark this particular video, so that you can get back to this article whenever need arises. You must read this article verbatim. At least the one half of the article, the part that is beyond land management, is something that is indispensable. It is extremely important. So please make a note that you have to keep this particular article. Now, the context of this article is with regards to sustainable development. Now, basically, this could be something that could be linked to the Amazon fires, but in particular, there's nothing like that. So I have just taken the broader context of sustainable development. So coming to the analysis, the first issue is with regards to Amazon fires. Now, basically, in the first few paragraphs of this article, the editorial is trying to highlight that the behavior towards environment, which should have been a global movement, the tendency should have been that to fight climate change and to protect the environment, all the countries should have come together. But that is what has clearly not happened. Rather, the countries have split. They have spread out, and each country is singularly dealing with this particular issue. So that is one challenge that is arising. This could be seen most recently in the case of Amazon, where we have discussed also that Brazil is primarily the country that was faced with this challenge of the Amazon fires. But Brazil refused to take global help. It said that this is what is an internal matter. It was only after huge amounts of lobbying and a lot of global pressure that finally Brazil accepted that yes, it will take some global help. But this is what is clearly reflecting that how on even major environmental emergencies, countries are willing to not take help from their peers. So that is one challenge that is emerging. For instance, an example of Paris Climate Agreement is what has been given. Here again, US has withdrawn. US has primarily withdrawn from Paris Climate Agreement in the interest of US itself. It has not thought about the bigger picture of the climate change, but rather in its own interest, it has withdrawn. Even UK for that matter has not gone ahead with European Union, and it has taken an isolationist stand where it has said that it will work on climate change on its own, or it will try and lobby with the US to come up with a better treaty. So these are some ideas which have been discussed in this particular analysis. Another issue that has been discussed is with regards to the impacts that are there because of climate change. We all know there is high temperatures, heat waves, there have been melting of glaciers. Many of you, I'm sure, are preparing for this examination from Delhi itself, and you will know what is the temperature in north of India. So all of these are the impacts of climate change. Flooding is what is taking place in Kerala for that matter. We need not go very much far apart. We will see climate change in our own local areas only. So that is how you have to analyze this particular issue. These are the impacts. Now basically there are causes for this. What are the causes for this? We all know these are basically some generalistic causes only. The greenhouse gas emissions are what are taking place. These greenhouse gas emissions are basically taking place because of energy as well as transport industry. Also there are changes in the land use pattern because of which climate change is taking place. Another issue is with regards to deforestation, desertification, industrial agricultural systems. All of this is what is resulting in climate change, and that is what has been discussed. Now, an analysis of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is what has been made in the editorial. The report is what has been talked about. This is something that you should know, that what are the latest findings of this particular report, a special report on climate change and land that covers desertification, land degradation, sustainable land management, food security and greenhouse fluxes in terrestrial ecosystems was what was released. This report was very wide in its scope. All of that is what has been discussed, and the gist of this particular report has been that basically it is the land use pattern that has had one of the maximum impacts on climate change, and that is why land management becomes something that is very, very important. So that is where the most important aspect of land management comes up in this article. You can have direct question on this, that what are the contributions of land for climate change. This is something that is rarely analyzed, and that is why I found this very, very important. So this is the part that becomes very relevant here. Now basically in the context of land management, you have to understand that land is a source of food, land is a source of water, land is a source of livelihood, land is a source of biodiversity, and it has been the poor land use in agriculture sector primarily for decades that has taken place that has resulted in several negative environmental impacts. For example, we have used chemicals in the soils in the form of pesticides, or for that matter chemical fertilizers. We have been following the practices of monocultures, and this is what has resulted in often the loss of some indigenous varieties also. All of this has resulted in terrible impacts on the environment. If we take an analysis of the groundwater for that matter, then the groundwater is something that in agriculture sector has not only been depleted, it has also been polluted. The situation is such that as of now the farmers are suffering. The farmers are unable to produce a sustainable agriculture. They are resorting to suicides. So all of this is what has been analyzed in the context of the faulty land management practices, and that is what becomes important. Next, what is important here is with regards to the solutions. Now what are the solutions to all of these problems? Several solutions have been offered. For example, sustainable agriculture, reducing the use of chemicals. A new keyword that I found was agroecology. This is something that is important. Basically, this defines a word where agriculture is done in a manner which is very much close to nature. So that is one key word that you can highlight and you can extract from this particular article. So this is what is important. Also what is important is that there should be not a conversion of grasslands into croplands, which is happening as of now. Also crop diversification should be done. Agroforestry should be done. Investment in indigenous seed varieties is what is required. Increasing the soil carbon content is required. Decreasing salinization of soil is required. All of this is what what has been discussed as solutions, which you must make a note of. You will have opportunities to discuss them, and if you mention these solutions, you will definitely be rewarded for using these kind of examples. So that is what is again something that is important. Another thing that is important here is with regards to the sustainable food system. Now basically, this again is something that is a newer concept that I particularly found out. First and foremost, what can be done to make the food system sustainable is that one should reduce food wastage. We all know that as of now, a large part of the food that is produced goes waste, and this is what should be prevented. Food has to be used in a much more sustainable manner. So that is the first thing that should be done. Another thing is that we should all prefer eating locally. That is another suggestion. Another thing is that meat consumption is what should be reduced. You should know that meat consumption often increases or puts a stress on the food resources. So that is another suggestion. There should be an ending of deforestation. There should be conservation of the mangroves, peatlands, wetlands. All of this is what has been talked about. So what I'm basically trying to stress here is that in this editorial, the discussion is very, very wide in its scope. It has discussed this particular issue from several perspectives, and that is what UPSC always welcomes, and it will reward you for this. So that is why this article is very, very important. Some other steps are also what can be taken. For example, there is inequality that is there as of now, particularly in the context of the agriculture sector. So this inequality has to be reduced by making better market access to all the small and marginal farmers. We need to empower the women farmers. We need to extend agricultural services. All of this is what needs to be done. Another keyword that I have particularly found is planetary ethics. You can have a question on this also in ethics paper. This particularly means that all of the countries have to act in a responsible manner. It talks about cultivating ecological sensitivities. Also, pluralism is what is focused upon. Increasing the quality of life is what has been talked about. Moving away from consumerism to create new identities and culture is what has been talked about. Next, the editorial also gives us a name of several civil society organizations that are working in this line. This is where it has been mentioned. For example, the La Via Campesina. Now, basically, the transition network, the eco-regionalism, all of these names are what have been given. Now, I cannot suggest that you should remember all of these names. You will not have that much of scope, but if one or two you can remember and you can give them in your answers, definitely you will be rewarded. This will give a good impression. Another important analysis is a metaphor which is about the Copernican shift. Now, the editorial is saying that just like Copernicus had discovered that it is not the Earth that is the center of the world, rather Earth is only a part of this web where all the planets and the entire universe does exist. That is how Copernican shift is required in the thinking of the countries. What as of now is happening is that countries are thinking that they are the center of the world. For example, powerful countries like US, they think that they are what are the center of the world. That is not the case. They are only a part of the web and they are not the center of the world. So that is with the Copernican shift that is required. I have stressed many times the article is very, very important, especially for the environment section in general studies paper. That is where you have to use this. Otherwise, also land use patterns is something that is a part of a syllabus, and there again this article will have relevance. So that is the importance of this article. Coming to the next article, basically this is an article which is not very important. This is just a continuation of what is happening in the context of India-Pakistan relations. The article is all about political statements that have been given and you will not have scope to discuss. What is only important here is the fact that rhetorics are being used by leaders. Time and again I have discussed that after any issue that develops between India and Pakistan, political leaders resort to rhetorics, and this is what often worsens the situation, especially a situation where the countries are nuclear powers. Pakistan is threatening India of nuclear attacks. All of these are rhetoric, and that is the only development that is new to the issue of India-Pakistan relation, and that is why I just wanted to give you an update of what is happening. So that is the only important aspect of this particular article. So that's about this particular article, and that's about our discussion today. And thank you all for watching the video.